Good morning to the Film Festival press conference. Please, could photographers please sit down in their seats? We're presenting the film La Hija, the daughter, which is in the it's in this section, but out of competition. We have the cast and crew, who I will introduce in a moment. If you have questions for any of them, the people who are sitting in the front row among the press can also answer your questions. In order to introduce the film, we have Manuel Martín Cuenca, the director and scriptwriter, the actors Javier Gutiérrez, Patricia López Arnaiz, and Irene Virguez. We also have Fernando Bobeda, producer of the film, and we have the composer of the Guille Galvan of the soundtrack, the composer of the soundtrack. On them in the front, we've got Sofia Nerven and Juan Carlos Villanuevas, who are another two actors of the film. We've got Alejandro Hernandez, who is the co-scriptwriter, along with the director, and we also have Atusta Morla, which is the group, Jorge González, Álvaro Benito, Juan Manuel Latorre, David Garcia, and Puig, who are the musicians of the soundtrack. So therefore, the director and the producer, could they please explain where the project stems from? That is to say, this idea of, you start, Fernando, I'll give you a brief introduction. This is from Fedis Vidal, who's a scriptwriter. He's Australian, but he was born in Spain. He had the idea, and all of a sudden, one day, talking to Alejandro Hernandez, he was interested in writing and developing the story and writing the script, and then Manolo gets involved. And when Manolo gets involved, well, Manolo is dynamite. He possesses the films, and it becomes a film by Manuel Martín Cuenca. You continue, well, okay. The truth is, Alejandro talked about this story. There was a seed. It was more a genre type of film before I got involved, and it talked about the seed of the film, a couple that can't have kids, and they've lost, and they've been trying to do so for many years, and they want to become parents. And I was interested in the aspect of the possible moral ambiguity that exists. And then I got involved, and then we went to Andalusia, to my land, to my area, to my field of play. So, okay. Please raise your hand if you're going to ask any questions. My question for the actors, I was seeing the film, and there are certain moments when the protagonist lies and you believe the way he lies, very detailed. It frightened me. And as actors, sometimes, does this cause a problem that in real life, your friends or your family are suspicion of you because you act very well, but you might be lying through your teeth, and they don't detect it? You've discovered our trick. Okay, lying well forms part of directing the actors. With Martín Cuenca, there's prior work that we carried out, a creative process which was quite in-depth, in which one comes on set with a lot of work already done. He has a very specific methodology of work which is based upon improvisation, and something that I like more and more so, which is that the script is like a map, which is there, and you've got to get as close as you can to it, but you've got to allow the story or the characters to flow and to live and portray their role, obviously. And performance becomes a game, and performing your role in his films, Martín Cuenca's films. The fact we've got problems when in performing outside a set, well, I live in life, I don't perform a role. We actors have to be fun, and we've got to be people who are different to the rest of the people, but that's very mistaken. We're just normal people, and we're not wearing a facade or a mask. Well, at least in my real life, I don't wear a mask and I don't perform a role. Any other actors want to participate or make any remarks? Do you lie a lot, Irene? Well, let's see. When you're an actor and when you're working, you lie so that the audience can see what you want to see. But when you're in the day-to-day life, you're not thinking about what you want another person wants to see of you. You're just being very natural, and that's it. As simple as that.
Hola, bueno,
Hi, first of all, congratulations for everyone for this very misconcerting film. It was great. Two questions for the protagonists. The truth is, do you believe that that was going to come out right? And for Irene, from the outset, did she know she was not going to hand in her daughter, and she's going to continue with the game that goes on between all of the characters? Well, at the at the beginning, she's a girl who it's not quite clear what she wants because of her situation, so therefore she's a bit lost, and her teacher or master or tutor gives her a way out and convinces her. And without knowing too clearly, she holds on to that because it makes her feel much more secure. However, from the outset, she doesn't think that things are going to end up the way they do. At the beginning, she comes to an agreement with him. Logically, I think that the three start off in spring, the spring we've had, which was very sunny, and there's a lot of light, which is the light of hope. Adela is the one that's got more doubts in her mind. At the beginning, you can see that she's got a lot of doubts when she talks to the Irene's character. She's very young, and she doesn't have things aren't too clear in her. She hasn't got things too clear in her mind. She's not a bad girl. What she's without entering into judging what she does morally, but from the point of view of the character, she's a girl who's got a context which is very complicated, and she may even abort. So therefore, it's the opportunity of a baby that's not going to be born, parents that can't have babies and are longing for it. If a girl doesn't have a family, no one to support her, so it's a plan that everyone is going to get something and take full benefit of. And then the look of love, for example, that Manuel talks about, it starts from there. Subsequently, what happens is something completely different. So things get more and more complicated throughout the film. So, and I think it's the situations are really clearly established at a script level what happens, and that you can feel that you're directed to keep going ahead. In the case of Adela, there's no turning back. It's an issue of it's a life and death issue. It's a tragedy. She lives it from a point of view that there's no option. She's got to go ahead with everything. On behalf of love, atrocious things are done, and this couple is looking to save their love, and the only salvation they have after what they've gone through and lived through is that baby. It's a very fragile agreement, obviously, but in a very suicidal and kamikaze side of point. But they think it'll come through. It'll work out because Javier knows the world of these children, of these they come from drug, prostitution backgrounds, family backgrounds, and he's helping her, and she can help them. So it's a quid pro quo. So therefore, it is true. Nevertheless, any little crack that plan can make it fall to pieces. But it's a good plan. It's a plan that initially can work out. Congratulations, Susana, for Cine Puede Esperar. I would like to ask Manuel whether it was clear of choosing the actors to be able to work with Javier again, and also the place where the film was shot. I think this has an extraordinary importance as well. That there's a shooting in Jaén. Why did you do this, or why did you choose using this location? Well, the project, albeit it comes from the period of we were premiering, it was the premiere of author. So therefore, with Javier, for example, I thought, albeit the script wasn't written yet, but he represented the relationship and the work we've done together. And Alejandro and I spoke about it, and Fernando, and we thought he represented that man with you can identify with, and he's also going to go beyond a certain and cross certain lines with a very big moral ambiguity and commit atrocities. And so I thought Javier, from the outset, already contribute a lot to the character, more than the actors and the technique. I'm more interested in the people behind them and what they're capable to unconsciously can provide to the character in portraying the character. And then Patricia came along, and we met through the casting director, Leila Serrano, and we did an audition, and it was, I think she still remembers the audition we did and what I proposed to her. It was a journey which was very beautiful at that time. And then Irene appeared a little later because it was a long casting process that we carried out in Madrid, in Jaén, and all of a sudden we found her, and it was like a love story. From the moment, and when I saw her, I like her. I call her my Japanese actress because there's a certain delicacy that she has when she performs, which is very subtle and very beautiful. And that was the coming together of the three of us. And they came through different paths. And Jaén was there, always there from the outset, in the concept of the film as the way I could see it and imagined it. And so Jaén is a mythical place in certain sense, and especially for me, that I was in the Segura Sierra when I was 8 or 9 years. And I went on my first colony, on my first camping when I was a kid. And I hadn't been back there, but I know that there is the territory of the Jaén Sierra is quite beautiful. It's very special. And I talked to Alejandro and I said, let's write the story of Jaén with Fernando. And the first thing we even rewrote the story to take it to my part of the country. Well, we traveled to Jaén, Alejandro and myself, the both of us. We looked all over. He'd never been there before. I'd seen it many years ago, and that was the encounter. The space talks about it. The geography there is a character in itself. And first was the geography and then the story. Hi, good morning, everyone. I would like to ask about what you've just been talking about. It's a film that turns maternity into something was so sweet, something that's so sweet of maternity, into something which is almost a terror film or a horror film. And to achieve that atmosphere, this climate, isolation, did it work well? How did you work upon this? Because, well, the isolation was necessary. It was necessary in any case to tell the fact that this couple is in a place where there's nothing else, and they're not going to do this in the middle of the city, obviously. So the basis of all of this is that we wanted to tell a story that in a certain way was quite primitive in nature, that a story that could have occurred 15,000 years ago in a cave between two women, one that can't be a mother and another one that is a mother. So therefore, almost unconsciously, because nature is not fair or unfair, it is what it is. And they who have suffered the injustice, they feel as an injustice, they feel legitimized to go further. And the big question you've got to ask yourself is, and that happens to us in general, I wanted to deconstruct the film to ask the question of how to repair an injustice without committing another injustice. Because obviously your pain and your legitimacy all of a sudden steps on the right of the other person. I wanted to make it quite primary, and essentially it has a film with very few characters, and you play basically the weight is taken by the three characters, the main characters, the three of them, and then other characters appear. But the idea was to make it very primitive in a certain sense, and unconsciously, drama and the thriller emerged. But that's not something that I addressed initially. I would add to the issue of maternity or being a mother. I think that you've got to see the other side of maternity. Because as a society we have the idea of how sweet maternity is, that obviously it is, but there are many other nuances that can be many, in this case, for example, a couple who, not the couple, but Adela, she has a maternal instinct which is very powerful, very strong, and they've had a past that can't be seen. It's not explained. You might think about what it is, but it's very powerful. Their past is very strong vis-a-vis their maternity and paternity. So therefore, they've gone through a really tough side, and we went through all of that. And when we went to shoot, we started to tell the story. We were loaded with a lot of pain. And for example, it's an issue that I had not addressed before, and as of there, I've met a lot of couples that have gone through situations that are very complex, very long in these processes, and suffer enormously. Couples that don't make it to the end, that they break up along the way, and in fact, the luminosity and the shadow of paternity and maternity has to go with the intensity and the power. This link with a baby that is there or is not there, but it's such a strong link. And I was talking about it's almost a tragedy. Perhaps the light and the birth and how luminous the birth is, and seeing the baby, I can't leave this baby here. It's mine. Making it all the way to the limit to which Javier and Adela go to. There's something animal in all of this, in the good sense of the word. We're animals. Women do something that's incredible. You give birth. You've got the ability to give birth. What happens to the woman who doesn't have that ability? So therefore, that's the struggle of between two animals. We tried to make it that essential, that primitive. First of all, congratulations for the film. My question is for Irene. How did you approach the character, and how did you establish that relationship as a mother and as a daughter that is taken in and taken care of? There's a bit of a misgivings and hate, because there's a lot of anguish there at the same time. And thank you very much. Or anxiety. Before shooting, the truth is we did a lot of work with the script, and even between the actors improvising and talking and creating situations and talking about life. And with Adela, for example, when I arrived to the place where I was going to be living for those months, I couldn't see her. They didn't let me see her. From the moment we arrived, we had to slowly but surely create that atmosphere of a certain distance, of a certain coldness between us. But we get along very well apart from that. But it's work that goes from that. It's taken a lot of time, and it went gradually, slowly but surely. And as regards to maternity or being a mother, I'm not too sure how to explain it. You just could simply say that when I was resting, I always was wearing the prosthesis as if I was pregnant. But mentally inside, I thought about this and trying to feel it and trying to imagine. The truth is, I had something under that fake belly, and in each scene, I always thought mentally about the actress. I could really feel on occasions that I was really pregnant, and the truth is, they were taking away my baby. So therefore, it was quite mentally, internally for me. And I did it when we were resting between scenes, because we were almost in a bubble. We spent a lot of time in that bubble, and albeit the lighting was there and the cameras, you always felt that you were in the film, shooting, not shooting, or when we were shooting or not shooting. And it's very intensive. It was quite intense work every minute of the day. And as regards to the relationships, the film starts from it's spring and there's a lot of hope in the air. And all of the past that the couple have had is a past in which they've fallen, they've gotten up, they've fallen down again, they've gotten up again, and they've had a really tough life at the back. And when this plan occurs, this is their only chance to have a child. It's a couple that biologically have been denied, and socially they've been denied the possibility of being parents. And this opportunity arises, and when Adela starts to put their trust in them and go, let's go ahead. And this is what was not seen initially, but we start from a situation of hope. And Emmanuel didn't want us to see each other, both of us. But while we were working, Javier and myself, in separately, and I was quite intrigued to go. I was intrigued because there's a shared maternity here, and I want to know who she is. There was something that I felt like meeting her, and all of a sudden we see each other. The day I saw her, I didn't see her as an actress. I saw her. I thought, Adela, I wanted to meet Irene. She's going to be a mother with me. There was a certain hunger that Manuel had created, and then when we were shooting the film, it's so tough. Adela, for example, there are many things that I don't know, but her journey is quite tough. For example, the scene with a fake belly, that you've lived everything and you've managed to get up off your feet onto your feet again, and you can't have a baby. There's no way of doing it, and then a little girl comes along who, by accident, she's pregnant. She doesn't know whether she wants a baby or not, and that you make a pillow, and you fill it up with cotton, and you put it under your shirt so the society can see, and you walk down with your false belly, and she comes along and takes it away from you, from the pain that she has. The truth is there were many things, and then the complicity between those two. There's jealousy there. There are things in the script that I was in a situation in which, of course, we were going to. There's obviously jealousy there, so that we were colliding vis-a-vis our characters. But there was also something. They got a bit closer together later on, and I remember the scene when Osman and Irene says that they're going to keep the baby. Osman, this is quite relaxed, but there was one where I started to cry because all of a sudden he says they're going to keep the baby, and I said, no, it's my daughter. The painful thing wasn't, it's not going to be it, but I understood her at the same time. These situations in life in which you can't escape that dramatic situation. It's horrible because if I keep it, I take it from away, and I like you now. But if you keep it, I die. So therefore, that was the whole situation. So it's all the film itself. I was under tension. It was very, very heavy tension for me, and I think that's what you can see on the screen. Yeah, the truth is, it doesn't come out. But in all of those times and months, over that time, those months, they tried to get to me. It said I was going to give her my daughter, but then again, I also had to know who I was going to give him my daughter to, that I was going to give birth to, and there was a specific work that we did to try to come together and to befriend each other, to talk between each other, and to understand each other as regards to our positions. This feeling that Patricia was talking about of drama, where everyone loses at the end, this complex drama was reminding me of the lullaby that you're singing throughout the film. So therefore, I'd like to know by Guille and the director, what was the construction of that melody, that lullaby in the soundtrack, and that that lullaby? Perhaps? No, you start. Okay, there's something that I like to say beforehand. When I talked with Vetusta Morla, I said, I'm not calling you for your songs. You're a group. It's a marvelous group. I like you, but I love the sound that you make. So I can see that the soundtrack that I might have, for example, what they've done for me, the soundtrack is what I dreamed about. It's marvelous. So therefore, there was an opportunity in the script. There's a moment in which, when the baby's born, they start to sing, and we'd written down you could sing a lullaby. And I talked to them about the possibility, okay, if there's any place where there can be a song can emerge in a lullaby, if you can send me a melody or something, or think that what she hums, the actress hums, can be yours. So a song of yours. So therefore, I put the ball into their court, and they did whatever they did. They threw the ball back to me, and so I gave it to Patricia. She sings it and makes it her own, and then the ball goes back to them, and they do Reina de las Trincheras, the Queen of the Trenches. I'm not too sure how you went through this process. Well, pretty correct what you've said. Manuel calls us up and he gives us this challenge, which is twofold. First of all, is to make our first ever soundtrack, and then make a soundtrack being a collective, that is to say, being a group, which is not very frequent. It doesn't occur too often. So therefore, when he told us the story and the script, we started to talk for a long time. We went to see the shoot. What Manuel has just said is that it's a film which is quite radical in the sense that it's quite basic, almost ancestral, where everything that's superfluous is left to one side. So therefore, we propose making a film where the music emerged from the story itself, literally speaking. And so what happens if instead of using instruments, what we do is use the audio tracks of the film itself and work with Eva Valinho and Maite, the people that do all the post-production and sound post-production. So therefore, and through the work, through using software, turn those sounds into instruments. The wind, the car engines, the drops of water falling down, and then all of a sudden we had a sound palette which allowed us very much to see the film without knowing what was a soundtrack and what was live sound. And I think it worked very well with all the work that they were doing. As I remember Manuel saying, it's a film in which we have to work everything, the actors and the music, for example, and all of this has to be. When there's a long sequence, for example, there's no music because Manuel wanted for there to be sound, to come out of the image, everything that had to do with the experience of the audio. What we did was the lullaby that Juanma proposed and became the Queen of the Trenches was to achieve a melody that a certain moment in the song or the film has a soundtrack to a certain moment, and at a certain moment, the last third or the third part, we give Adela the song so that she could do our music stops and she's the one that starts to hum in different sequences a lullaby, which from the outset we didn't want it to be recognizable. It could be an anonymous lullaby, the popular tradition, and anyone who could listen to it might think it's a song that it's not by Vetusta Morla, but it could be a song that was sung by their grandmother when they were kids or when they were babies, whether it's before or after the war, from the north or the south of Spain. So therefore, I think that was the most beautiful challenge for us, to try to achieve a song such as it's called the Queen of the Trenches, that no one knew where it came from. And the truth, it came from a mother who hummed it to a just born baby so that the baby could fall asleep. And I think we weren't there when you shot that scene, the final audio, but I think that was beautiful too, because you sing it next to the camera. When we talked about this concept of how the lullaby could be, they sent it to me, and we started to do something beautiful. The Patricia started to sing it, and then all of a sudden, the whole crew sang it as well. But she did my way. I'm not going to sing it too well. It doesn't matter. You sing it your own way. So therefore, this helped us to change the planning and the staging of that final scene at the end of the film. It's not exactly how it's written in the script. It was different, but it occurred to me that in the last take scene and in the planning were inspired by the music from what they had given me. So therefore, in fact, there are many things that are shot live. That is to say, I put on off, Patricia on off with the microphone. Things were happening in the background, and her on off camera, for example, when I felt that the music had to go, I gave her a signal and she started to sing. And that's what appears in the film. A lot of the takes, she's singing on off camera. So therefore, this gave a certain energy to the shoot, because I believe a lot in about the energy and ritual, and I'm not too sure everyone can think what they want about the film, but cinema is bringing about, convoking magic. It's primitive, it's ancestral. Fire, music, there aren't two takes that are the same. It happens or it doesn't happen. Anyway, I'm going to get very spiritual and egotistic, but that's so I better shut up. Unfortunately, we have to stop here because, please, a big round of applause for the cast and crew. Sorry for those people that want to ask more questions.